Welcome to the Cozy Cottage Crochet channel, a channel all about crochet, a little bit of knitting, sometimes sewing, and generally living the yarniest life possible in St. Petersburg, Florida, where I live. Today we are going to learn how to do a Crochet Memories Blanket. And this is a join as you go, corner to corner crochet technique. Once you have this down, you will be able to do this forever, and you will be able to make the most magical blankets out of this and use up all of your minis and scraps that have meant so much to you over the years. So grab your hook, grab your yarn, and let's jump in.
So we're going to start with our slip knot, insert our hook into that slip knot, pull it tight, and then our first step is to chain 6. After we've chained 6, we're going to build our first cube, and by doing this we need to work into the 4th chain from our hook. So we're going to work 1 double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook, and then we're going to work a double crochet into the 5th chain and the 6th chain. So that gives us a chain 3 space on the right side, as well as 3 double crochets. That builds our first little cube of the corner to corner. And then we have to start increasing. So what we're going to do is increase 1 cube each row. We're going to chain 6 again. When you're on an increase row, you always chain 6 to begin. So we've started, we've got our first cube, we've got our chain 6, and then what we're going to do is turn the work around, and then we're going to insert our hook into the 4th chain from the hook and work a double crochet there. This is going to build the first cube of the second row. So we work a double crochet into the 4th chain, the 5th chain, and the 6th chain, and that gives us our chain 3 space as well as 3 double crochets, and that makes that first little cube of the second row. Now we need to join these 2 cubes together so they're not just floating out into space. So you want to make sure that it's facing the right way. The chain 3 space on that first cube needs to be on the top. Right where my thumb is on my left hand where I'm inserting that hook. This is where you need to insert your hook and slip stitch to join. It has to be in a chain 3 space. Don't try to attach it anywhere else because it won't work. Let's show this one more time. So I have this loop on my hook. I'm going to insert my hook into that chain 3 space, pull up a loop, and pull it through to slip stitch. And now I have these 2 attached together. Then I need to build my second cube of the second row. And by building this cube, it's really easy. You just chain 3, and then you work 3 double crochets into that same chain 3 space at the bottom that you already slip stitched into. And once you've worked these 3 double crochets, you have your second cube of that row. And you can see that we've increased by 1 little cube. So now we have our first row, our second row, and we're going to start the 3rd row, same increase row, and we're just going to go through this row together so that you have a really good foundation for how to increase. The first step you do is chain 6, of course. We're going to build our first cube of the 3rd row by inserting our hook into the 4th chain from the hook, working 1 double crochet there, and then working another double crochet in the 5th and the 6th chains of this row. That will build our first cube of the 3rd row. And this is the same process that you will repeat for every increase row. So now I need to attach it, and the attach process is the same as before. You insert your hook into that chain 3 space, you pull up a loop, and you slip stitch to join. And then you just continue to build cubes across the row by going chain 3 and then working 3 double crochets into that chain 3 space that we had from the previous row. So you can see I'm working on building cube number 2 right now, and I'll show you when that's finished what it looks like. And we slip stitch to the top, and we then chain 3 and build our final cube of row 3. And row 3, what we're going to do is, if you want to make your square a much larger, you can just keep repeating this same process that we just used for row 3 as many times as you want. Just keep working it, working it, working it. You can build it as many as you want. So we've got 1, 2, 3 rows, and you can keep increasing until it's at the size that you want. So now we're going to start decreasing. So we have to decrease by 1 cube each row. We've been increasing by 1 cube each row, but we want to square off this pattern. So we need to get to that chain 3 space where my left thumb is. So the way to do this is to actually slip stitch across the top of this cube. A lot of patterns will tell you to do 4 slip stitches. You can see that there's 4 spaces to put your hook. I personally prefer to only do 3 slip stitches. I think it makes for a neater cube, and it also makes for an easier time to put on a border if this happens to be an outside cube at a later time. So you're going to skip the first stitch, slip stitch into the second stitch, the third stitch. These are the double crochets from the previous row, and then you are going to slip stitch into this chain 3 space right where my finger is and my thumb is pointing. You're going to slip stitch into there, and you've done 3 slip stitches, and now you are ready to just continue across the row like we did before. So the way to continue across the row before is you simply chain 3, and then you work 3 double crochets into that chain 3 space. So as you can see, we actually did not increase this row by 1 cube. We're now decreasing the row. After you work your 3 double crochets, we just simply attach it like we did on the previous rows, slip stitch into that chain 3 space. Then you're going to chain 3 again and work 3 double crochets into that chain 3 space you just slip stitched into, and that builds your second cube for this decrease row. And if you have 100 cubes on this decrease row, you just follow that all the way across until you reach the end and you slip stitch to the top. Now normally on an increase row, this is where we would chain 6, but we don't want to increase, we're decreasing, so we're going to turn our work around and we are going to work 3 slip stitches into the top of this cube. We're going to skip the first one, work 1 slip stitch, then the second, and then the final slip stitch into that chain 3 space. And as you can see, because my squares are so small, we only have 1 more cube to work, and then our first corner to corner cube is already finished, which is excellent. So we're going to chain 3 just to finish this off, work 3 double crochets into that chain 3 space, and then we are going to slip stitch to join to the top, and then you can actually fasten off. That is your first corner to corner cube completed, and you can see that it looks like a whole little square. So now we are ready to join our second square and start building our join as you go corner to corner blanket. So I've got my second color attached with a slip stitch, and what I'm going to do is attach it to the bottom right corner. But as you can see, there are up and down lines of double crochets on this little square. So some of them are going left and some of them are going up. And I'll show you here with my hook. We've got this bottom one going left and the second one going up. And if you want that pattern to continue and to match, then what you need to do is always join in the bottom right corner of your square and start working rows. I'm going to show you how to do that, but if you don't care that this pattern continues, you can join in any corner, and I personally don't think you can tell when you look at it from far away at all. But if you want that pattern to continue, you need to join in the bottom right corner only and work in strips. So I'm going to show you how to join in the bottom right corner. What you're going to do is insert your hook down at that very bottom little right corner where my tail is and slip stitch to join. So we've got our yarn attached, and now we're going to start building our square. So the first thing we need to do is chain 6. So this square is going to be built the same exact way as our first square, just with one small difference, which I'll show you here in a second. So first we need to build our first little cube, which is by doing 1 double crochet in each of the 4th, 5th, and 6th chains from the hook. So I'm going to go ahead and do this in red yarn so that you can see really high contrast what this looks like. So we've got our first little cube, but it's not attached to anything. And we have to attach this before we can move on to row 2. So what we are going to do is we are going to attach it using a slip stitch right where my finger is pointing, right there, in between those 2 cubes. And you can see that the pattern is continuing. So those double crochets are going up and those are going left, those are going up, those are going left. So the pattern is continuing. That's how you're going to join at the bottom right corner to make sure this pattern continues if you like that look. So what we are going to do is we're going to insert our hook in between the first and second cubes of the blue. So I'm going to show you exactly where to put your hook. It is going to go right here in this little space. You can kind of see my finger poking through, a little bit of daylight. That's where you're going to put your hook and slip stitch to join right there. And you're just going to pull up a loop and slip stitch. Just like that. So we've joined our first cube. Now we need to increase, and this is a little bit different because we're doing join as you go. We're not just going to chain 6. What we actually have to do is chain 3, attach it to the blue cube again, and then chain 3 again. So it's going to be chain 3, attach, chain 3. So first we're going to chain 3 right here. Then we are going to attach it between these next cubes, right where that little bit of daylight is, right where I'm inserting my hook. We're going to slip stitch to join. And this is going to secure our second square to the first square. So we're going to yarn over, pull it through. And we've created a little chain 3 space for us to work into. We're going to chain 3 again, and now we're going to turn our work over, and I will show you the wrong side. That chain 3 space right there is where we're going to work our 3 double crochets. So we are increasing, we're just attaching as we go. Then we're going to turn our work over. Now we have the wrong side facing, and you can see that there is the joins are a little more obvious on the wrong side. It wouldn't be so obvious if I wasn't using such a high contrast yarn, but I want you guys to be able to see. So on the wrong side, you can see what those joins look like. We are going to start on our second row, and it's really simple from here on out. You simply start working into this chain 3 space you've created. You work 3 double crochets into that chain 3 space, and then you are going to slip stitch to the top of that first red cube to join right where my thumb is. So simply insert the hook, pull up a loop, slip stitch to join, and then we're going to work another cube just like normal. So all you have to do is chain 3, then work 3 double crochets into that same chain 3 space, and you are already done with row 2 of this join as you go technique. And you can see we've started building our little cube. And I'm going to show you one more increase row so we can really cement this technique. The first thing you want to do, because we're not attaching on this right side, see there's nothing out where my thumb is in the hook, it's just hanging in space. We don't have to attach it to anything. So this is a regular beginning of an increase row. You are going to chain 6, then work 1 double crochet in each of the 4th, 5th, and 6th chains from your hook. This is going to build your increased little cube of row 3. And then you're simply going to work across the entire row, just like I've shown you for cube number 1. You attach it with a slip stitch, you chain 3, you work 3 double crochets in that same chain 3 space, right there. That makes cube 2, and then you do the same exact thing for cube number 3 of your 3rd row. We're going to slip stitch to join, we're going to build our little cube, and then as soon as I'm done with my 3 double crochets, what I'm going to show you is the attaching technique for the top. So all you have to do once you've finished your 3rd double crochet of that 3rd little cube is you're simply going to slip stitch to the top right corner of that blue cube, or whatever color of yarn you are working on. You simply slip stitch to join, and now we have attached the 2nd cube. So actually now we need to start decreasing, but if you were making yours much bigger, what you're going to do is just keep making rows, keep attaching rows until you are ready to start decreasing. So we're going to slip stitch to join, and remember we're going to do 3 slip stitches, not 4. It just makes for a neater edge, and it's up to you how you want to do this. On a 1 regular square, I would just skip the first one and start slip stitching into the 2nd one. When we're doing join as you go technique, I sometimes like to slip stitch into this first little space because I think it makes the join more stable. So then I would skip the 2nd stitch, slip stitch into the 3rd, and slip stitch into that chain 3 space. So I've only done 3 slip stitches. It makes a really neat edge. And now I'm just going to work across the row doing chain 3, work 3 double crochets into that chain 3 space. So you can see that I'm just working like we normally do, just across the little cube, working my 3 double crochets. Need a little bit more yarn. And then I'm going to slip stitch to join and just keep building my cubes just like this, just like we've learned. And once you get this technique down, you won't need a pattern, you won't need to look at anything. This will just be in your head, and you can use this for the rest of your life. So after I've done that 2nd cube, I'm just going to attach it by slip stitch to the top. I'm going to turn my work over, slip stitch across, 1 slip stitch, 2 slip stitches, and 3 slip stitches, and then work my last little decrease row, simply a chain 3 and 3 double crochets in the same space, and I have completed my second square of the join as you go corner to corner crochet blanket. And so all I have to do is simply slip stitch to the top, and that's it. Cut my yarn, fasten off, and I have made my second square. So now it is time to join square 3. And if you want to keep going in this horizontal vertical pattern of the corner to corner, what you need to do is attach the square to the bottom right corner. I personally don't care. I don't think you can tell from far away what direction these stitches are going in, especially if you're using fingering weight yarn. So I'm going to show you how to attach to literally any corner. I'm going to just pick this corner up here. I'm going to turn my work, and I have color 3, which is a blue here, and I'm going to attach it with a slip stitch down at this corner that I'm showing where my hook is. So simply just attach it with a slip stitch, no big deal at all. If you want the pattern to continue, you have to attach it to the bottom right corner, right where my finger is pointing. But we don't care. We're in the don't care club. We just want to attach to anywhere we want, especially if you have a yarn that looks better down here than it would at the other point that you're joining. This is a really useful technique to have. So simply attach your yarn to any corner that you want of your blanket that is ongoing, and then we're going to build square number 3 the same exact way that we built square number 2. So we're going to start by increasing. We're going to do our 6 chains and then work 1 double crochet into each of the 4th, 5th, and 6th chains from the hook. And here I want to show you just the join again. I know I showed you when we were joining square 2, but I think it's just a helpful reminder to have. The way that this is going to work is you are simply going to slip stitch in between the 1st and 2nd cube of the 2nd square, right where my thumb is pointing, where the red yarn is. So we're going to insert that hook, joining it, attaching it so that square number 3 is secured. So insert the hook, slip stitch to join, and then we need to increase. So instead of a chain 6 here, what we're going to do is chain 3, attach it with a slip stitch at the top of the 2nd red cube, right in that little hole, and then we are going to chain 3 again. So we have our increase, and we're going to turn our work over and simply work 3 double crochets into this chain 3 space, right where my finger is. So simply work 3 double crochets in there, and then once you're done with those 3 double crochets, we are going to slip stitch to the top of that first little blue cube to join. And we need to make 1 more cube because this is an increase row. So increase cube, same exact way we have been doing it. You're going to chain 3, work 3 double crochets in that little chain 3 space, and then you are going to turn your work over, and you can see that we've started our square number 3, and we have a little random red end of yarn poking out there. Let's tuck it to the back. So now we're going to increase, and I just want to show you this one more time because I just think it's so helpful to keep seeing it. Make sure you have enough yarn, and you're going to chain 6. This is a normal increase row because on this right hand side we're not attaching to anywhere, so we can just increase like normal. We're going to work 3 double crochets, 1 each in the 4th, 5th, and 6th chains from the hook, and then we're going to attach it to the top of that blue cube just like normal. Now we need to build 2 more cubes to square this off. A normal process here, chain 3, work 3 double crochets, and attach it to the next cube until you reach the end of the row. So now we have our blue cube attached. We're going to simply slip stitch to the top of that red one just to attach it. We're going to turn it over, and we have 1, 2, 3.5 cubes. So turn to the wrong side. We're going to slip stitch to start decreasing. Remember to slip stitch on this side into the first stitch. That just tightens up that join. Skip a stitch and then work your 2 more slip stitches across so that we can start decreasing this cube. And the decrease is exactly the same as it was before. You're simply going to chain 3, work 3 double crochets into that chain 3 space, and then slip stitch to the top of the next one. And you're going to do this all across the row, as many cubes as you possibly have in your row. I of course only have to work 2 cubes here because I've made itty bitty little squares. And then I'm going to slip stitch to the top to join. And now you can see that I've decreased and everything looks perfect. So I've got to turn it over, one more decrease row, 1 slip stitch, 2 slip stitches, 3 slip stitches, and then a chain 3, work 3 double crochets in that chain 3 space, just for our last little cube of row 3, or cube 3 rather. And then we'll slip stitch to the top to join, and I will show you what it looks like when it's laid flat, because it just, to me, looks perfect. So we've got our 3 little squares, 1, 2, 3. Let me pick it up and show you. They look so perfect. They're all joined together. This is what the wrong side looks like, and you have all of these little end tails waving. So now it is time for the most exciting part of the join as you go corner to corner technique, which is to join this square in this little V. So we are going to close off this whole cube, and you can see I have my 4th color of yarn attached to my hook with a slip stitch already, and I'm going to attach it right where my finger is pointing at that join. This square can be a little bit tricky because we have to attach on both sides, but once you have the technique down, it's really easy. So I'm just going to insert my hook in that corner and do a slip stitch right here, and that is going to attach the yarn. So I've got my yarn attached in the bottom corner of this V, and now I'm going to build my first cube. So instead of a chain 6, what I need to do is I need to chain 3, attach it, and then chain another 3. So I've chained 3. I'm going to attach it on the right hand side. You could actually attach it on the left hand side as well. It does not matter, but I'm going to show you this way. So I'm going to insert my hook over in right where my thumb is pointing, into that little hole where you can see my finger poking through. I'm going to just do a slip stitch, pull the yarn up, and then do another chain 3. So I've attached it. As you can see, I've attached it right here. I'm going to do my second chain 3, and now I have a space to build my first cube. So I'm simply going to work 3 double crochets into that little chain 3 space I just created. This is cube 1 of square 4. Work my 3 double crochets, and then I need to attach this to the green side. So let's do this final double crochet here, and then I'll show you where we're going to attach it. So it's attached on the right side already. I have my hook, and I'm going to insert my hook over here in between the first and second cubes of this green square, and now my little white square is secured on both sides. So we have it secured on the right side, and we have it secured on the left side. And now I'm going to start my increase. So what I do is I'm going to chain 3, get a little bit more yarn here, chain 3, attach. After I chain 3 with a slip stitch in between these 2 cubes, right where my thumb is, insert that hook, do a slip stitch here, and then chain 3 again. So what I've done is build that chain 3 space so that I can put my cube in here. After I've done the second chain 3, I'm going to then turn my work over, and here's the wrong side. You can see those joins. Again, they're very visible because I'm using such high contrast yarn, but if you're doing any kind of a fade, any kind of variegated yarn, or you're working with fingering weight yarn, they're just not going to be that visible. So I work my 3 double crochets into that chain 3 space, and then I'm going to attach it to the top of this first white cube, just like normal, just like regular corner to corner crochet. And I need to work 1 more cube of this second row because we are on an increase row here. So after I've done my chain 3 and 3 double crochets, then I'm going to attach it to the blue square in between these 2 cubes right where my thumb is. So this is the same join technique. The only difference on this 4th square between the 4th square and the 3rd square is I'm simply doing it on both sides. So this yarn gets attached up here in the right blue corner. So I'm going to chain 3. And I just showed you the wrong side. This is the right side again. I always find it easier to do the chain 3 and attach from the right side before you turn your work. Chain 3, attach into that top right corner, chain 3 again, then you're going to turn your work over and work across just like normal. 3 double crochets in that chain 3 space. So as I said before, the only big difference between just attaching a square anywhere and attaching it in the V between 2 squares is that you simply have to do an attach on both sides. You can do this technique no matter how big your corner to corner squares are. So you're just going to keep working just like you normally would in a corner to corner, chain 3, work 3 double crochets in that chain 3 space, and keep doing that until the end of the row. And as you can see, I have slip stitched to the top of that green to join, and now I'm ready to begin decreasing on my 4th square. So we really only have 2 more rows to complete this whole cube. We're going to turn it around. Remember to slip stitch into the first stitch to tighten up that join, and then skip 1 and slip stitch into the 3rd and the chain 3 space. That's what's going to work best for this scenario. And then you're just going to proceed across the row as usual. Chain 3, work 3 double crochets into that chain 3 space. You're going to attach it to the next cube with a slip stitch, chain 3, work 3 double crochets in that chain 3 space, and then attach it to the top. And you just keep doing this no matter how many cubes you have across. I only have 2, so I'm just going to show you this final join right here. We're going to slip stitch. And we only have 1 more row, and so I'm just going to do my slip stitches across the top. Whoops, I lost my hook. I'm going to do my slip stitches across the top and build my final cube of this corner to corner square. And then we will fasten off as soon as this last little bit is attached here. And then I'm going to show you what it looks like flat. So we do our final slip stitch, get your scissors, cut it off, and then just pull your end through. And here is what it looks like. So we have our corner to corner join as you go square. I have shown you how to join 4, right? I have a random little end poking out there, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4 squares total, and you can keep using this technique to join to any corner. And as I said before, remember that if you want to keep the pattern going, you have to join in the bottom right corner. If you don't care, you can see right where my finger is, we have 2 horizontals and 2 verticals next to each other. And I really don't think you can tell, even on this tutorial with my phone, only a couple of inches from the work, you can't really tell that it's not in pattern necessarily. So this tutorial is so that you have the freedom to join anywhere you want on your project. So if I finished my white square and then I had a yarn that I thought would look better on the red square side, I could just join it to the red square, keep going, and live my best corner to corner life.
And that's it. That is how you make a join as you go corner to corner square. And you can just keep doing this process over and over and over again until you finish your Crochet Memories blanket. All you have to do at the end is just put a little border, maybe put a half double crochet border of a couple rounds on the entire blanket, and you will have an heirloom that you can treasure forever. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. If you did, give me a thumbs up, hit subscribe down below. I do have a podcast that airs on this channel every other week on Saturday, and I would love to have you join our fabulous Yarny community. Thanks for being here, friends.